Every young kid who starts his karting career dreams of succeeding in Formula 1 someday. Young Frenchman Pierre Gasly was one of those kids. His journey in Formula 1 is a story of resilience, determination and triumph. From humble beginnings to great success, with incredible hardships along the way. He has overcome all obstacles and has cemented himself as a household name on the grid. It's time we give him his flowers for what he's achieved so far. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. This is not a complete biography video of Gasly's whole career, so we'll skip the karting and go straight into his first year in Formula 1. His first season in Formula 1 started incredibly well. Maybe a little too well, as it set the expectations a little too high. He made his debut in Toro Rosso in 2017 at the Malaysian Grand Prix, replacing Daniil Kvyat. In that race he finished P14 and was granted a seat for 2018 in the Red Bull sister team. In those days the sister team still had Red Bull juniors driving for them and still had a proper name. Toro Rosso was pretty awesome. In only his second race for the team he qualified in an impressive P6 position at the Bahrain Grand Prix and finished P4. Toro Rosso hadn't finished that high in ages. They were a proper midfield team, making it hard to score points consistently. He managed to score 29 points and earned a lot of praise for his mature drives all year long. But then a few things happened that would change the course of his career completely. It started with Red Bull driver Daniel Ricciardo, who was in high demand on the grid, leaving the Milton Keynes team for their nemesis team Renault. Enough has been said about that choice, but it set something in motion for every new driver that took that seat that is still felt today. I'll explain later why. Red Bull had made the daring choice to put young Max Verstappen behind the wheel of the Red Bull car in 2016, and it may have made Helmut Marko a little overconfident, because they expected the same from Pierre Gasly when they promoted him into the seat of Ricciardo. Perhaps they didn't realize how special Max Verstappen was and how much more he could get out of the not so easy to drive Newey built car, but Pierre Gasly failed miserably. In this tumultuous time, Gasly struggled to get results and infamously had a big argument with Adrian Newey about the floor of the car and demanded changes. This shows how lost he was, as Newey's stature at Red Bull was one of the most highly regarded and Newey wasn't someone anyone could fall out with. Red Bull being Red Bull, with Marko being Marko, Pierre was replaced by young Thai English driver Alex Albon. Pierre's dream of having a long career in F1 was over. Well, in any other team, this would have marked the end of his career in Formula 1. His stock in the sport went from a promising youngster to a difficult problem child, all in the course of 12 races. After Hungary 2019, Albon took his place and Gasly was demoted to Toro Rosso. Red Bull believed he should have been closer to Verstappen, but later they thought the same of Alex Albon and Sergio Perez. As it turns out, no driver could get close to Max, and that's why Perez is there now, even if the gap to Verstappen is the same as his predecessors in that seat. For Gasly, this information came too late. If that wasn't enough of a blow, another tragic event happened that greatly upset the young Frenchman. Gasly's best friend was F2 driver Antoine Hubert. Ever since their karting days, they were friends and they went to the same school. They spent an awful lot of time together, as friends do. During the Belgium Grand Prix, Hubert had a horrible crash and lost his life. Gasly had just lost his seat and his best friend over the course of a few weeks. Pierre has laid flowers as a tribute to his late friend at the spot where it happened on the Spa-Francorchamps circuit ever since. In a world where everyone is a rival at some point, this also shows how tight-knit the F1 community is. This is most likely the reason why Pierre Gasly didn't give up on his dream to have a long career in F1. Nobody would have blamed him if he'd said he had enough. You can imagine how low he must have felt in that period. But he pushed through. He spent the rest of the season fighting in that midfield car and showed everyone he was still there. He showed his remarkable resilience in Brazil that season when in a crazy race with plenty of chaos, he found himself in a podium position. He was defending against Lewis Hamilton, who had crashed into Alex Albon earlier that race, in a thrilling sprint to the finish line. Pierre scored his first podium in his career in a season where he was completely written off by the media. Many young drivers dream of having a seat in F1, and Gasly accomplished that. Many of them dream of scoring a podium, and Gasly accomplished that too. The next thing on every driver's wish list is a win. But surely that would be impossible in a midfield team like Toro Rosso, right? Well, the first thing that changed in 2020 was the name of the team. Toro Rosso became AlphaTauri, named after the clothing brand that sponsored the team. That season he was consistently in the points to a total of 75 points, which gave him a P10 in the standings overall. The highlight of that season was the Monza Grand Prix. Kevin Magnussen's Haas needed to be recovered after a failure, so a safety car was deployed and the pit lane was closed. Lewis Hamilton ignored that and pitted, and he was given a 10-second stop and go penalty for that foul. He finished in P7, but before that Leclerc had a heavy crash at the Parabolica and a red flag period was called. Then, after the race started again, which saw Gasly in the lead, he stayed there, and that's how he won his first race. His only race so far. But it just shows what someone can achieve by not giving up and overcoming the obstacles that block your goals. After everything he's been through, he did what many F1 drivers could only dream of, and that's standing on the top step of the podium. One of the most wholesome moments in F1 history, if you ask me. For the 2021 season, a technical directive came from the FIA to change the floors of the cars. After many years with the same regulations and the new ground effect regulations postponed due to COVID-19, the cars had too much downforce and Pirelli was afraid the tires wouldn't be able to handle it. In a surprising turn of events, the high rake philosophy of the AlphaTauri car worked great with those cutouts, so Gasly found himself in an upper midfield car. He found himself consistently in the points, scoring 9 sixth places. This solidified his name as one of the strongest drivers in the midfield. He was a safe pair of hands behind the wheel and an asset to any other team on the grid. Now, he had his mind set on returning to the Red Bull seat, but that was never an option. So changes were coming on the grid thanks to a certain Fernando Alonso moving from Alpine to Aston Martin. His replacement, Oscar Piastri, had a surprise move to McLaren, and that left the French Renault factory team with a seat to fill next to Esteban Ocon. The choice was easy for them after what he'd shown in recent years, and a French driver in a French team is always a good idea. Even though Ocon and Gasly weren't on speaking terms anymore after the two friends had fallen out in their younger years, they were professional enough to work alongside each other. In the year that followed, they had plenty of crashes, but they never really blamed each other and things seemed to have been okay. The Alpine team itself has gone through many changes in personnel over that period, and a possible overtake is being rumoured. But one steady factor in it all is Pierre Gasly, who even if they are the 8th slowest car on the grid, has managed to score points. And next season, Gasly will be rid of Ocon as well, as he left to join Haas, and will be joined by 21-year-old Jack Doohan from Australia. With how bad Alpine is at the moment, with all the uncertainty of their future plans, I can safely say the only way is up for Pierre Gasly, and he deserves more than what he's getting at the grid at the moment. In any case, his dream of having a career in F1 is still ongoing, and perhaps, if God is willing, we'll see more wins and more podiums. I hope you enjoyed this Formula 1 story of one of its underrated stars. Hope to see you in the next one. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.